Arise, all women who have hearts.
Whether your baptism be that of water or of tears.
Say firmly, we will not have great questions decided by irrelevant agencies.
Our husbands shall not come to us reeking with carnage for caresses and applause.
Our sons shall not be taken from us to unlearn all that we have been able to teach them of charity, mercy, and patience.
We women of one country will be too tender of those of another country,
to allow our sons to be trained to injure theirs.
From the bosom of the devastated earth, a voice goes up with our own.
It says, disarm,
Disarm. The sword is not the balance of justice.
Blood does not wipe out dishonor, nor violence indicate possession.
As men have often forsaken the plow and the anvil at the summons of war.
Let women now leave all that may be left of home for a great and earnest day of council.
Let them meet first as women to bewail and commemorate the dead.
Let them solemnly take counsel with each other as to the means whereby the great human family can live in peace.
Each learning after their own time the sacred impress, not of Caesar, but of God.
In the name of womanhood and of humanity,
I earnestly ask that a General Congress of Women, without limit of nationality,
may be appointed and held at some place deemed most convenient and at the earliest period consistent with its objects.
To promote the alliance of the different nationalities.
The amicable settlements of international questions.
The great and general interest of peace.
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 Thank you. Good morning. Welcome to All Souls Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Susan Caldwell. I'm the Director of Religious Education here. Our minister, Barbara Jarrell, is out of town this weekend. She was performing the wedding of another ministerial colleague, and so we wish her happy Mother's Day and safe travels back, and happy Mother's Day to everybody, because at one time or another you have cared or loved or taken care of someone, and so I think this is your day too, whether you have mothered children of your own or you're the cool aunt, because my cool aunts were some of the best people in my life, or you are mothering the four-leggeds and the wingeds and the slitherers and everyone who is cared for somebody or something. We welcome you and say Happy Mother's Day. We are a covenantal faith. We do not subscribe to a particular creed, and so we are many different beliefs under one roof. We think that that's a feature and not a bug. We like that. We learn from each other that way. We are united by covenant, which is the sacred promises that we make to each other for the way that we will be together in community. We say that we quote the theologian Francis David, who said we do not have to think alike to love alike. Whatever your age, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, political affiliation, if you care to worship with us and can support our covenant of mutual respect, we welcome you. And we do kind of front load these services with some announcements each week, and I believe our board person of the day, Susan Yellett, has some of those to share with us.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our church today. I'm really glad you're here. Our very special volunteer of the month is our board president, Sally Wood. And she's doing a great job representing us in the community and helping us with all the things that we need at the church. And I am not in favor of term limits, so you go, girl. Our giveaway the plate this month is Shreveport Mutual Aid, and they came last week and gave a little talk about what they do. One of the things that they do that I want to talk to you about today is a food share every Saturday from 10 to 2 at the Caddo Common Park, and it's right down there on Texas Street by the Volunteers of America. Beautiful little park. So they're doing that, and they're trying to make a little library down there also. But they give away food every Saturday. On, is it Tuesdays? What day? Tuesdays. We have lunch here, and it's also online. So come eat in person with us. Bring your brown bag, and we can talk and everything. And on Thursday nights, we help at the Highland Church with food at the dinner. So come and help with that. You have to be there around 5:30 to help. And one more thing, there's food in the fellowship hall for after the service, and I baked. So y'all come eat.
Thank you. You should clap for that. When Susan bakes or cooks, it's a good thing. I did want to say there was a great turnout for Building and Grounds, and I meant to grab the list out of the social hall, but if you came to Building and Grounds yesterday, will you raise your hand? Because it was a good, big group of folks, and we really appreciate that. Thanks to Eric first for kind of heading that up. We appreciate it. And I had something else. Oh, who made it to the book banning debate or whatever it was yesterday at the Hamilton South Caddo? Barbara did, and Barbara Deger. And I know she was talking this morning about how the debaters were not really informed about the legislation, which I kind of thought was going to be the whole point. And I'm really sorry that I didn't make it to that. Things just did not work out. But they're going to have another one at the Broadmoor branch this next Sunday, a week from today, at 2 p.m. And so kind of read up on that legislation. I think SB 7 maybe goes to the floor this week. At any rate, that's the book banning bill. And so just keep an eye on that stuff. And when you go next week, because apparently the major players were not there to talk about the legislation, which kind of seems weird to me. But anyway. I believe that is all we have this morning. Oh, I did want to remind you that we don't pass the plate anymore, but we do have donation baskets at what some call the front and others call the back. That is a theological point that we can discuss at another time. But there are baskets there for your cash and checks. There's also a QR code where you can give. And if you want to split your contribution for your pledge and Shreveport Mutual Aid for the giveaway the plate, you can do that either on the memo line on your check, or you can select to give away the plate for your online gift if you want it to go there, or select 2023 pledge if you are making your pledge. I believe, what? Game night, thank you. I knew there was something else. Thank you so much. So we're having game night once a month. It's going to be on the third Friday, right, which is this Friday, the 19th. It was super fun last time. Wendy was trying to teach James and Jennifer and me how to play mahjong, which was just hilarious. And now she's moved away, so we can't even continue with our education. But it's big fun, and you don't have to play mahjong. There's lots of different games that you can play, and so I hope you'll join us at 7 to 10 in the social hall. So I think that really is all I had. If you'll now take a nice deep breath. And as you let it out, just feel your shoulders come down from your ears. It's amazing how they can just creep up. And do it again. And I'll bet you can relax them even more. And let's enter the spirit of worship.
As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown, O Lord, show me the way. Oh, mothers, let's go down, come on down. Oh, mothers, let's go down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the robe and crown, O Lord, show me the way. Oh, fathers, let's go down, come on down. Oh, fathers, let's go down in the river to pray. As I went down in the river to pray, studying about that good old way, and who shall wear the starry crown, O Lord, show me the way. Oh, children, let's go down, come on down, don't you want to go down? Oh, children, let's go down in the river to pray.
I want you to know that you are loved beyond your wildest imaginings by the spirit of creation, the spirit that loves you as your mother does, or did, or should have. Every bit of you is holy, even the embarrassing parts, even the thoughts you wouldn't tell your best friend. God is in your every cell, calling you to live a loving, joyful, boisterous life, to go easier on yourself, to accept that you are a blessing, to spread the word that there is no original sin, that we are all glorious gifts to a world that desperately needs us. Can I have some help to lead the children's chalice lighting this morning? And actually, Jennifer, if you will help us with this too, then you'll be up here for your...
We light this chalice to celebrate Unitarian Universalism. This is the church of the open mind. This is the church of the helping hands. This is the church of the loving heart. Together, with mind, hands, and heart, we care for the earth and for each other.
These words are from Sarah Stewart Holland and Beth Silvers. They are the hosts of the Pantsuit Politics podcast, which I recommend if you don't know it. I've also adapted parts of it, so some of them are my words. If your mother was cruel, unkind in words, aggressive in hands, withholding of approval, you are precious and beloved. If your mother was absent, aloof, untethered, detached, you are precious and beloved. If your mother was unknown to you in any way, you are precious and beloved. If your mother was possessive or obsessive, you are precious and beloved. If your mother left you by choice or by fate, you are precious and beloved. If it's just enormously complicated or just fine or a perfect respite when you're with your mother, you are precious and beloved. If you made the complicated and personal decision to terminate a pregnancy or are living with the ramifications of having that choice removed from you, you are precious and beloved. If you wanted so much to be a mother, but it wasn't meant to be, you are precious and beloved. If you or your mother or children are separated by incarceration, you are precious and beloved. If it's your first Mother's Day without your child or your mother, you are precious and beloved. If you never wanted to be a mother, you are precious and beloved. If you have mothered children that you didn't birth, you are precious and beloved. If you are trying to be both mother, father, and parent right now, you are precious and beloved. If you are waiting and trying and hoping to be a mother, you are precious and beloved. If you are creating a life right now in all its weirdness and wonder, you are precious and beloved. If you are a caretaker of children, aging parents, an ill spouse, partner, or friend, you are precious and beloved. If you are a mom to non-human animals, you are precious and beloved. If today you celebrate your chosen mother or mothers, you are precious and beloved. If you're a mother whose children have been adopted by other families, you are precious and beloved. If you are a queer mama or a genderqueer or trans parent, you are precious and beloved. If you are weary from hearing mommy one too many times, or for trying so hard even though it feels impossible, or from providing for needs that most people can't even understand, you are precious and beloved. If you did your best with your children but still have regrets, you are precious and beloved. If you never knew your children, you are precious and beloved. If you have a mother who miraculously has always been more kind than not, more affirming than not, more patient than not, and more tender than not, you are precious and beloved. If you, like me, are trying to become that kind of mother, but need a reminder that it's about percentages and not perfection, that it's about the months and not the minutes, about showing up, not shining, you are precious and beloved. May Mother's Day bring peace and gentleness and rest. May Mother's Day offer a brief break from the pressures and judgments and guilt and stress that surround us all. May Mother's Day hold you close, because you are precious and beloved.
Thank you, Jennifer. I love that piece and your rewrites as well. If you'll rise in body or spirit, join us for the unison affirmation. It should be on the screen and or in the printed order. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the sacred. Thus do we covenant with each other. And Bob Jordan is going to help us sing This Little Light of Mine, dedicated to all the moms that ever reminded you to let your light shine.
Sorry for the delay.
You tune because you care. Is, oh no, not yet. We have Ash. On the screen are the words Spoken Words by Ashford and McLain, and I would like to bring them up now. Old habits die hard, y'all.
So before I read this, I want to preference this with I wrote this about a year ago. I wrote this in response to the first Mother's Day without my mom. Can hummingbirds be purple? That seems like such a silly question. Hummingbirds are known to be green, but hummingbirds were your favorite, and so was purple. I wonder if you knew that the violet-crowned hummingbirds existed. The average life expectancy of a hummingbird is 3 to 5 years. The average life expectancy of someone diagnosed Someone after a metastatic breast cancer diagnosis is also 3 to 5 years. You had an appreciation for them. You weren't supposed to share a life expectancy. Sorry. Mom, I still wish I could call you and talk to you. Mom, how do I write this email? Mom, what do I put for the subject? Mom, what do I say when I call these people? Mom, I have feelings for this girl. I think you'd like her. Mom, I like this guy and I don't know how to express it. Mom, what's the best way to phrase this? Mom, how do I do this? Mom, how am I supposed to get excited about the things when you aren't here to be excited with me? Except you are, Mom. You are with me in the ways that you shaped me into who I am. You taught me to be a person. You taught me that how I feel is valid, what I choose to do with it may or may not be. You taught me compassion and care for the ways that you would stop and help anyone you could. You taught me that my mental health is important by, I worry about you sometimes, just want you to be happy. Mom, you taught me that it was okay to be me and that the right people would love me regardless of how weird I was. I hope you knew about the violet-crowned hummingbirds, Mom, and I hope you know that I carry you with me because you made me me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ash. I'd like to bring up now Jean Kelly.
I love my mother more now as an older adult than I did when I was younger. The reason for that is I have a much better understanding of what she went through dealing with her mental illness. Over the years, I've been able to separate the good times when I really got to know her from the bad, the times when I could really understand how much she loved me. There is a poem that always makes me think of her and smile. When I was in elementary school, I was given an assignment. Pick out a poem, memorize it, and recite it for the class. I went home and asked my mother for a suggestion, and the poem she suggested was perfect. It also had a good lesson to it. It was about entitlement and the lack of kindness. I wanted to do really well on the assignment, so for several days I would practice my poem in the evening. My mother would listen while working on her sewing and giving me words of encouragement. Those few days are a wonderful memory because in that room, it was just her and I. Her mental illness did not join us. Her words of encouragement filled me with confidence and love. When the day came for me to recite my poem, I stood up in front of my class, recited my poem, and I did not miss a single word. And the poem was The Walrus and the Carpenter by Lewis Carroll. The sun was shining on the sea, shining with all of his might. He did his best to make the billows smooth and bright. And this was odd because it was the middle of the night. The moon was shining sulkily because she thought the sun had got no business to be there after the day was done. It's very rude of him, she said, to come and spoil the fun. The sea was wet as wet could be. The sands were dry as dry. You could not see a cloud because no cloud was in the sky. No birds were flying overhead. There were no birds to fly. The walrus and the carpenter were walking close at hand. They wept like anything to see such quantities of sand. If this were only cleared away, they said, it would be grand. If 7 maids with 7 mops swept for half a year, do you suppose, the walrus said, that they could get it clear? I doubt it, said the carpenter, and shed a bitter tear. Oh, oysters, come and walk with us, the walrus did beseech. A pleasant walk, a pleasant talk, along the briny beach. We cannot do with more than 4 to give a hand to each. The eldest oyster looked at him, but never a word he said. The eldest oyster winked his eye and shook his heavy head, meaning to say he did not choose to leave the oyster bed. But 4 young oysters hurry up, all eager for the treat. Their coats were brushed, their faces washed, their shoes were clean and neat. And this was odd because, they hadn't any feet. 4 other oysters followed them, and yet another 4, and thick and fast they came at last, and more and more and more, all hopping through the frothy waves and scrambling to the shore. The walrus and the carpenter walked on a mile or so, and then they rested on a rock, conveniently low. And all the little oysters stood and waited in a row. "The time has come," the walrus said, "to talk of many things, of shoes and ships and sealing wax, of cabbages and kings, and why the sea is boiling hot, and whether pigs have wings." "But wait a bit," the oysters cried, "before we have our chat, for some of us are out of breath, and all of us are fat." "No hurry," said the carpenter. They thanked him much for that. "A loaf of bread," the walrus said, "is what we chiefly need. Pepper and vinegar besides are very good indeed. Now, if you are ready, oysters dear, we can begin to feed." "But not on us," the oysters cried, churning a little blue. "After such kindness, that would be a dismal thing to do." "The night is fine," the walrus said. "Do you admire the view? It was so kind of you to come, and you were very nice." The carpenter said nothing but, "Cut us another slice." "I wish you were not quite so deaf. I've had to ask you twice." "It seems a shame," the walrus said, "to play them such a trick, after we've brought them out so far and made them trot so quick." The carpenter said nothing but, "The butter is spread too thick." "I weep for you," the walrus said. "I deeply sympathize." With sobs and tears, he sorted out those of the largest size, holding his pocket handkerchief before his streaming eyes. "Oh, oysters," said the carpenter, "you've had a pleasant run. Shall we be trotting home again?" But the answer came there none, and this was scarcely odd because they'd eaten every one.
I guess we should say that no actual oysters were harmed in the making of this service today. I love that. Thank you, Jean. So I've told the story before, I think now on the screen. Okay. I've told the story before, but it's been, I think, a couple of years at least. And what we religious educators like to say is repetition is the key to faith formation. And it's funny because I went to the ordination of a friend just recently, and one of her colleagues was giving the sermon, and at some point she said something she had said earlier, and she said, "And I know I've said this before," and this whole room of DREs goes, "But repetition is the key to faith formation," like in unison. So oh no. So, Facebook, you can imagine, that's all right, you're good at that. So, on the left is Julia Ward Howe, and at the beginning of the service, you saw the video where some women from the Unitarian Society of East Brunswick, New Jersey, recited her Mother's Day proclamation. Now, what you'll hear a lot of times about Mother's Day is it was started by a woman named Anna Jarvis to honor her mother. But you don't always hear the details. And so the proclamation this morning, I wanted you to hear that because Julia Ward Howe started this as a Mother's Day for Peace. She wanted to have a convocation of mothers. She had been a part of what they called the Sanitary Commission at the time, which took care of medical things during the war. And she was horrified by war, and she thought, well, it's the mothers who birth the sons who send them to war. So we need to have a conference, and we need to figure out better ways to solve problems so that we don't lose our children. And I think they had one of those celebrations. She was trying to kind of get that off the ground. But what people don't realize is that the cause of peace was also the cause of Ann Jarvis and her daughter, Anna Jarvis. Ann Jarvis lived in Grafton, West Virginia. And West Virginia was kind of, you had some people fighting for the Confederacy, you had some people fighting for the Union. And so when all of the soldiers came home, Ann Jarvis, the older, the one in the middle, had the idea that they needed to have some kind of a picnic, some kind of a celebration to bring everyone together to try and foster a community feeling where it had been so violently split asunder for so long. So that was kind of how, so when you look at both of these women, the two mommies, Anna Jarvis is the other mommy, and then the grandma is Ann. But when you look at how this day came about and how what you'll hear is Anna Jarvis invented this holiday to honor her mother. Well, there was a reason she wanted to honor her mother. She wanted to honor the work. Her mother also had worked for the Sanitary Commission and had helped the soldiers during the war. And so this celebration to bring people back together was very important to her. And so Anna Jarvis was the one who campaigned until it was made an official holiday. So she and Julia Ward Howe I think of as the two mommies, and I thought that's another reason with all the ridiculous legislation that we should honor this holiday that has two mommies. But also, I want you to remember that story. I want you to remember that story, and I haven't told all the details today because there are other things to hear today, but I wanted you to remember the names. Julia Ward Howe, she's famous for what? You remember what she's most famous for? Battle Hymn of the Republic, that song. She wrote that song, and people think of that as a warlike song, but she was adamantly opposed to slavery, and she was adamantly in favor of the cause of the Union at the same time that she so fervently opposed war, just war and what it did to people. So I would like it if you would help me sing out the children and youth, and I think y'all are going to be in a combined class today. Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. And now I'd like to introduce Tena Hines.
Good morning. Sorry, I'm real froggy for some reason. So, my great-grandmother was born, no, my great-grandmother passed away the day before I was born. And so I had an uncle tell me a few years ago that he believed that was because she and I could not occupy the planet at the same time. So I'm going with that. My mother, my grandmother, Lucy, passed away when I was 5. And she was actually younger than I am now. She was 61 years old. And I remember them both through my mother and my aunts telling stories about them, countless stories. One of them was that my mother and my grandmother both loved poetry. When Susan asked me about doing something for today, I was like, I don't like poetry. I never did. But I reached out to my one aunt who lives here in Shreveport, and she was the one that suggested this poem because it was something that my grandmother recited to them. And so, in honor of all of those women that helped me to be the person that I am, this is a poem by Langston Hughes, Mother to Son. Well, son, I'll tell you, life for me ain't been no crystal stair. It's had tacks in it and splinters and boards torn up in places with no carpet on the floor, bare. But all the time, I've been a climbing on and reaching landings and turning corners and sometimes going in the dark where there ain't been no light. So boy, don't you turn back. Don't you sit down on the steps, 'cause you find it's kind of hard. Don't you fail now, for I still going, honey. I still climbing, and life for me ain't been no crystal stair.
Now I'll ask the choir to join me again.
The Lord is my shepherd, I have all I need. She makes me lie down in green meadows, beside the still waters she will lead. She restores my soul, she rights my wrongs. She leads me in the path of good things. She fills my heart with songs. Even though I walk through a dark and dreary land, there is nothing that can shake me. She has said she won't forsake me. I'm in her hand. She restores my soul. She sets a table before me in the presence of my foes. She anoints my head with oil, and my cup overflows. Surely, surely goodness and kindness will follow me all the days of my life, and I will live in her house forever, forever and ever. Glory, glory be to our Mother and Daughter, and to the Holy of Holies, as it was in the beginning, is now, and ever shall be, world without end. Amen.
I wrote this when my children were small, probably about 2 and 6. I've been reading, but the children have found me. I am reading, as they remain in my orbit, circling with questions, comments, requests, observations about the nature of things. I am reading still, even as I give short answers and shorter shrift, when suddenly the sun breaks through, the fog lifts, the light dawns. I am reading, Nurturing the Spiritual Lives of Children. Closing the book, I may yet learn the lesson. Let us forgive ourselves our shortcomings and forgive others as now we enter the silence.
Oh
And now I'd like to bring up Claudia Harris.
Yesterday would have been my mother's 98th birthday, but she died at age 60. And I've thought a lot about her over, close to Mother's Day. And what I can say, a couple of things, is, I could say a lot, but that she lived well and she died well. She was not a Unitarian, but she certainly embodied our principles. She was a social activist, social justice, stood up for integration in 1955, living in Shreveport, Louisiana at that point. She was cut from the same cloth as abolitionist suffragettes. And every so often I'll notice that I'll open my mouth and my mother's words will come out. Not altogether a bad thing. Anyway, I heard this poem a few years ago, and it delighted me, and knowing my mother, I think she would have been delighted, and if not delighted, delighted adjacent. Anyway, and I would read you the poem by Billy Collins called The Lanyard. The other day, I was ricocheting slowly off the blue walls of this room, moving as if underwater from typewriter to piano, from bookshelf to an envelope lying on the floor, when I found myself in the L section of the dictionary where my eyes fell upon the word lanyard. No cookie nibbled by a French novelist could send one into the past more suddenly, a past where I sat at a workbench at a camp by deep Adirondack Lake, learning how to braid long, thin plastic strips into a lanyard, a gift from my mother. I had never seen anyone use a lanyard or wear one, if that's what you did with them. But that did not keep me from crossing strand over strand again and again until I made a boxy red and white lanyard for my mother. She gave me life and milk from her breasts, and I gave her a lanyard. She nursed me in many a sick room, lifted spoons of medicine to my lips, laid cold face cloths on my forehead, and then led me into the airy light and taught me to walk and swim. And I, in turn, presented her with a lanyard. Here are thousands of meals, she said. Here is clothing and a good education. And here is your lanyard, I replied, which I made with a little help from a counselor. Here is a breathing body and a beating heart, strong legs, bones and teeth, and 2 clear eyes to read the world, she whispered. And here, I said, is the lanyard I made at camp. And here, I wish to say to her now, is a smaller gift. Not the worn truth that you can never repay your mother, but the rueful admission that when she took the 2-tone lanyard from my hand, I was as sure as a boy could be that this useless, worthless thing I wove out of boredom would be enough to make us even.
And finally, I want to welcome Barbara Deger.
And I want to say I've enjoyed everything that has been shared today. For the record, I did not want to become a mother. I was really not crazy about babies, and I was on a career path leading to a promotion at the Department of Education. So I married into a family and learned too late that you were not really a member of their Catholic clan until you made a baby. Still, I had it all worked out. This baby was going to sleep until exactly 6 a.m. Plenty of time to do my 2-mile run and then be ready for work. I scheduled a myriad of meetings 3 days after my due date. This child was not going to change my world until she did. What had not really occurred to me until that moment was that I heard her first cry, that I was responsible for a human being. What had not occurred to me is that I would fall in love with a person I'd only known for 7 minutes, until I did. The meetings got rescheduled, and when I did return to work, I still drove to her daycare and nursed her at noon for a year. One day, she spit up all over my purple polyester pantsuit. I had a meeting with superintendents, and even though I had cleaned up, when I got to the room and sat down, a superintendent turned to me and said, "Why does this room smell like sour milk?" But I didn't care, because by then, I had become a mother. This next poem is written to my mother. You were a mansion with many rooms, with spaces I entered freely and others not. There were rooms where books were sacred, and when the World Book Encyclopedia arrived, I had to wash my hands before picking a book up. Books were in every room of our modest post-World War II house. You taught me to love reading. And there was a music room where my 4-year-old fingers could not reach a chord yet, but your hands had already memorized all the hymns that I could sing by heart before I could even read. And sometimes, in reckless abandonment, we would sing Broadway musicals from the Mitch Miller songbook. It was better than TV, which we didn't have one anyway. You taught me to love music. And there was a room for faith where Bible verses and prayers were recited. I don't think you ever really realized that by telling me Jesus lived in my heart, you planted the seeds for me to become a mystic, seeking union. You taught me to believe in a universe of spirits. But perhaps my favorite room was the creation room, where you and I would climb over barbed wire fences to reach woods near our house and collect wildflowers and watch tadpoles morph into pollywogs. You knew the names of all the trees like no one I have ever met since. You taught me to love nature. There were also dark rooms I was never allowed to enter. What had happened to you as a child with a father suffering from schizophrenia? Why you sometimes stayed in bed for days at a time? And why, when you were angry, you hurled whatever you had in your hand across my face? Your rage was terrifying. But perhaps that was the most important lesson in life I learned from you. That someone who society said was so broken could also be an amazing mother. That people are incredibly complicated, that we all have many rooms, lovely and tender, terrifying and tragic. And while some of our rooms may remain forever locked, I mainly remember the rooms we shared together with windows wide open, and I believe what you gave to me was the best love you had, and it was enough. Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Can I put y'all on the spot, choir, and ask you to come up and sing help lead this hymn? It's 128 in the gray hymnal. Thank you. I appreciate it. We're going to sing For All That Is Our Life, rise in body or spirit. And you know what? We will just do the 3 verses. We won't repeat the first verse. We'll do 3 because we are a little over time.
For all that is our life, we sing our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. For needs which others serve, for services we give, for work and its rewards, for hours of rest and love, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life, for all that is there, for failures, pain, and loss, for each new thing we learn, for fearful hours that pass, we come with praise and thanks. For all that is our life.
God, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Beloved, as we depart this holy space, let us live into our dreams and expand our circle of justice to encompass all of creation. Thankful for those who have loved us, let us love one another and the earth. For as a body is animated through the relationships among its many parts, so God is made manifest among us through our love. Remember your promise, live in hope, go in peace. And if you can, call your mom or speak it to the cosmos. Thanks.
Sometimes I lay under the moon, I think I'm breathing. Then I pray you'll take me soon, 'cause I'm here for a reason.
Sometimes in my tears I drown, but I never let it get me down.
Get me down.
So when negativity surrounds, I know someday it'll all turn around, because
all my life I've been waiting for, I've been praying for the people to say that we don't wanna fight no more. There'll be no more wars. Us children will play. One day, one day, one day.